Hello and welcome back to the Simhanger, and welcome to the second in our series looking at virtual reality in the flight simulation world. In the first video we looked at hardware and headsets, and today we're going to be looking at the more popular flight simulation platforms in the market. So what is the best flight simulation platform in the market today for VR? Well, that's not an easy question to answer. It depends on what hardware are you running and what are your expectations of your flight simulation platform. Do you want something where you can just jump in the cockpit, take off and fly? Or do you want something as real as it gets? Complex, study level? Are you interested in military, combat? All these factors play a part in determining which platform is best suited for you. Today we're going to be looking at the various strengths and weaknesses of the various flight simulation platforms, but in terms of answering that difficult question, well, that's something of personal preference and you're best placed to make that decision. There are two different ways to interact with your environment in VR. You can use either one or a combination of both. You can use the controllers, which are represented in-game either by a highlighted point, controller or pair of hands, or the more traditional method of interacting with your flight sim through yokes, etc. Let's get started. We start our Xplane journey in the virtual hangar, in front of a menu option which gives us a choice of various flight configurations, a flight school, as well as settings. The controller is indicated as a controller and shows when we can interact with various things. One very cool feature, and I think exclusive to Xplane, is the ability to teleport. The red indicator shows us which direction our view will be. Let's go and have a look at that Boeing. Wow. On to settings. The settings menu is very straightforward. Those settings on the left-hand side are mainly to do with the graphics card, visual effects, texture quality, etc. And those on the right, number of world objects, reflections, and what have you, indicate those that will affect the CPU. Along the top are a number of tabs which allow you to fully configure Xplane to suit your requirements and include all the normal suspects such as joystick and keyboard, settings and calibrations, as well as options for configuring your VR to suit your requirements. The options affect how the mouse and controller interact with the environment around you. From the main menu we can also access the flight school for a number of basic tutorials. Let's start setting up a flight. There's a wide range of aircraft available in Xplane, from the jets through to the twin and single engine aircraft, as well as sailplanes and a helicopter, so something to suit all tastes. I'm just going to keep it simple today, choose the Cessna Skyhawk, and I've chosen San Francisco. Xplane comes with about 35,000 airports, of which 3,000 are enhanced. Time of day and the weather is fully configurable in Xplane to any level or detail that you require. And Active Sky and other third-party applications are available to give you real-world weather. Welcome to the cockpit. By pressing the top button on the controller brings up a range of menus. The top one being get in the pilot seat, which recenters your view. There's other ones such as configurations, windows, different views, replay, pause, flight configurations and so on. Let's recenter. There's different ways to interact with the cockpit using the controller. If you touch anything that can be interacted with, then it turns green, and by pressing a button or trigger, depending on what controller you've got, you can interact with it. You can also point to something and it will highlight to interact, or you can move forward and touch the item and then move it forward and backward. When adjusting gauges or dials, there's haptic or tactic feedback through the controller, which is fantastic. Anyway, enough of this. I think it's time to go flying. We're at San Francisco International and we're taking off from runway 10 left. And we're just going to turn and loop over the airport quickly just so that we can have a look. All the scenery that you can see here is Virgin Xplane. It's the default Xplane scenery. I must say the mesh and texturing is excellent. There is a range of freeware available for Xplane. It's one of the strengths of Xplane is the amount of freeware available that will give you ortho scenery or photographic scenery for most parts of the world, as well as more detailed meshes if it's required. But for default scenery, this is San Francisco, doing a little bit of illegal flying here, but it is fantastic. This is Xplane 11.3. This is native VR for Xplane. Flyinside used to support Xplane, but with the release of 11.3 it no longer is able to support the shaders. One of the fantastic strengths of Xplane is its night lighting, which is perhaps the best out in the market currently. Highly recommended. I don't own a copy of Aerofly FS2 and therefore not qualified to pass judgment, but I know somebody who is. Sweeviver, popular YouTuber and flight sim enthusiast. Thank you Sweeviver and enjoy his review.
Today we're going up in the air again, trying out the Aerofly FS2 flight simulator. Guys, you probably already know that this flight simulator has native VR support already. Full hand support. Yes, we actually have hands in VR now, just like in the Xplane 11 simulator. We can interact with everything in the cockpit of the aircraft thanks to our HTC Vive controllers or Oculus Rift controllers. We're just gonna jump into the settings first of all, and for those of you that are not familiar with this simulator, I'm just gonna show you some of the settings here. These are the general settings. Everything here is on default actually. I'm gonna use the overlay. Let's see the controls. We're just gonna use our hands this time, so no joystick is attached to my computers, but just leave it. We're just gonna jump into the graphical part. And first off, I'm gonna use window mode because I'm recording this, and also the graphical quality is gonna set to ultra, and that's kind of the highest settings. Everything is on ultra. The shadows, the terrain mesh quality, the building density, everything is on ultra. Also, there is a scale factor. And that is so cool because so much people have been complaining about the scale in Xplane 11, for example, you know, everything being too small or the aircraft being too big compared to real life. So finally you can adjust the scale, and you can adjust it from -1 to 1, but I'm actually gonna leave it on 0 because, well, I hope it's gonna work fine on default. I'm not gonna change that. We're gonna use some lens flare effect and also show hand controllers during simulation. Of course, we're just gonna use the hands and nothing else. We have 18 different aircrafts, and well, first off, the Cessna 172 Skyhawk, my favorite plane. It's so easy to begin with. You can change the painting as well. We're gonna just use the standard.
Aerofly FS2 includes a wide variety of aircraft you can choose to fly. The scenery is not worldwide. It's circa 300 airports, predominantly limited to Western USA. There is a development kit that comes with the package which allows you to design your own airport and scenery. The product is being supported by third parties such as Orbix. It is available on multiple platforms and has an active community following it. The product is still in active development. It doesn't currently support real-world weather or multiplayer, but these are planned for the future. Now back to Sweeviver.
Whoa, man. as a rudder. It's gonna take some time to get used to. Okay, let's just take off, guys. I'm sorry, I'm a noob. This is my first time flying with the hands in virtual reality with the Aerofly FS2. Wow, guys, this doesn't look bad for being a... It really looks awesome. Huh, look at the scenery as well. It actually looks very photorealistic. I think this scenery is photorealistic, taken from photographs or satellite photographs. And we can already now see the San Francisco city. Wow, it's really sensitive. The yoke is so sensitive. It's so easy to... looks great. But so far so good. I'm flying very low, I know that, but I want to show you the scenery. I'm gonna change the pitch a little bit just to go down like this. I can maintain this altitude. This looks great. Not bad looking. Look at the mountains over there. It looks fantastic. I can tell you that the performance is just awesome. I get a few frame drops so far, but wow, look at this.
With a massive range of both scenery and aircraft, freeware and payware, Prepared from Lockheed Martin has a strong following, partly due to its original origins as Microsoft Flight Simulator in its old 32-bit days. Lockheed have continued to develop on the platform and moved it to 64-bit and built-in native VR, although it is limited in as much as it does not take advantage of controllers. This means yokes and rudders etc. are required in order to interact in VR. A third-party application such as Flyinside is also a popular choice for Prepared. The main menu for Prepared is in normal screen mode and allows you to configure your flight. You may wish to load previous flights, flight planning, manage your sceneries, as well as set your graphic options. Under the display heading you can set your display for global settings, image and texture quality, and under the world you can specify individual settings for terrain and scenery objects, as well as for water and special effects. Lighting, enable HDR is there, as well as dynamic lighting options, shadows and so on. A range of other options within the menus are available for key assignments and calibrations. From the main menu you can also select your aircraft of choice. Prepared comes with many different aircraft, but interestingly it doesn't include any Boeing aircraft, and it does not include the proverbial Cessna 172. For today's flight I'm going to choose the MAL 260C. My choice of airport once again is going to be San Francisco International, and runway 10 left will be the departing runway. To enable VR it needs to be chosen from the top menu, and for Vive users Steam VR. To interact with the cockpit, the mouse has a small circle around it, and by either clicking one of the mouse buttons or using the center mouse wheel you can interact with the cockpit. It doesn't allow you to interact with the yoke or rudder, and the controllers are not visible. Prepared doesn't record in full screen mode unfortunately natively, and therefore what we tend to see is the border of a lens, so there's a need to zoom in. We're using Prepared version 4.4 today, and we're using the professional license. The license for Prepared comes in two forms. One is academic, and that is for students and those training for their license, and professional for other users. The scenery that we're seeing today is slightly enhanced, as I do have some Orbix scenery installed, including global, base and vector. Prepared does include scenery for the whole world, and there's a number of multiplayer options available, which include VATSIM, Pilot Edge, IVAO and so on. Aspects such as time of day and weather is fully configurable, as well as real-world weather, and it is supported by third-party applications such as Active Sky. Whilst you can view panels in VR, you can't import any pages or third-party documents into the cockpit, and for that you need a third-party add-on such as Flyinside. In my next video, which will be the third in the current VR series, it will feature a full flight using Prepared and Flyinside. Whilst Prepared enjoys perhaps the largest support from commercial third-party payware software providers, the one big disadvantage is the price. It is the most expensive of all the packages that we're looking at today. And that's primarily because whenever a new version is released, one is required to repurchase the license. This is a significant consideration when deciding on which flight sim to adopt. Having said that, Prepared is an excellent flight simulation package and obviously continues to enjoy support, mainly because of the large back catalogue of software. Following Microsoft's decision to stop supporting Microsoft Flight Simulator X, it was subsequently picked up by Dovetail Games and is now marketed under Steam. It's the odd one out of all our flight sim packages today in that it does not inherently support VR. However, it is VR compatible through the use of a third-party package, Flyinside. Flyinside allows you to use your controllers as hands in the cockpit and also allows you to import third-party documents into the cockpit. Dovetail Games did bring out a successor for Microsoft Flight Simulator Steam Edition, Flight Sim World, but that is now defunct and no longer available or supported. As far as I'm aware, Microsoft Flight Simulator Steam Edition remains 32-bit. If anybody knows otherwise, please let me know in the comments below. The platform is a stable one, tried and tested over the many years, although it is restricted by its 32-bit programming. Support from third-party developers continues, but it has slowed noticeably over the last 12-18 months. Microsoft Steam Edition comes with a wide range of aircraft choices, from the Cessna 172 all the way up to the tube liners. It is compatible with all the major online multiplayer flying platforms such as VATSIM and IVAO. Weather is configurable and live weather can be used. Support is via the Steam portal and for VR via the Flyinside website. One small cautionary note here is that support from Flyinside for their add-on application since they've launched their own flight simulator has slowed somewhat. DCS World or Digital Combat Simulator is a free to download package. 28 gigabytes mind. To be technically correct, this is actually a battlefield simulation as it includes land vehicles, although the focus is very much on aviation. The download includes detailed scenery for most of Georgia, southwest Russia, incorporating the Black Sea, And in addition, you get the TF-51 Mustang and the Russian attack jet, the Su-25T. Additional aircraft and areas or campaigns can be purchased. Whilst DCS is perfectly playable in flat screen mode, it's been built inherently to support VR. The controllers are represented as your hands in game, and the main menu selections are on the right hand side, and up at the top are the various setting options that you can choose. Let's have a quick look at settings. The game configurations are represented by the tabs across the top, and the first setting of system allows you to set your graphic options as well as some quick choices. The last tab is VR and allows you to set various preferences for your VR settings. From the main menu screen you got various options to choose, campaigns, missions. I'm just going to choose instant action, and for this flight I'm going to just choose free flight, the top one on the menu. We're going to be in the Su-25T. You're presented with a short mission briefing, click OK, and you're ready to go. I'm grabbing the center joystick with the one hand and the throttle with the other. In this case I'm not using a yoke, I'm just using both controllers to control the aircraft. The first thing that strikes me is how fluid and smooth the movement is of the aircraft and the surrounding scenery. Very impressive. Let's have a look at things from an external camera point of view. Now, how do I get back into the cockpit? I think I'm in trouble. Ouch! Somehow I don't think this is going to be my last crash in DCS. Being a fully detailed and complex combat flight simulator, I decided to enter a dogfight to see how I do. I'm not that experienced. Any guesses on the outcome? Yep, you got it right. Undeterred, I decided to take on two A-10 Warthogs. Perhaps this would be a little bit easier, and the outcome was, yeah, equally predictable. My ego suitably bruised, I decided to jump into the P-51D Mustang and fly through the various towns and enjoy the scenery. Once again, super smooth. The cockpits are amazingly detailed. All the switches, buttons, etc. work. No problems at all. Just skimming over the top of the buildings and by the side of the buildings. This is not flight sim, is it? Here's how my first takeoff went. This is DCS 2.5, and this includes 20 operational bases, various weapon systems and AI aircraft. Quite a number of third parties are developing products for DCS, including Razbam and Bell Simtech. One of the notable strengths of DCS is that it caters for those who just want to jump in the aircraft and fly and have a bit of fun, a casual flight simmer as it were, and those that want complex study level startup, landing and mission and campaigns. It caters for both. Various campaigns can be purchased covering the Persian Gulf, Normandy, Nevada, and it also features very comprehensive and detailed campaign and mission builders. The main appeal of DCS World is online multiplayer, where it is very, very strong indeed. DCS has a very active forum and community via its website. Flyinside Flight Simulator isn't to be confused with the add-on VR application Flyinside for FSX and P3D. It's a separate standalone product, but developed by the same team. Product support and updates is via the forums on its website. Flyinside Flight Simulator can be purchased direct or via Steam. We start our virtual journey in the cockpit with a pair of fairly luminous hands. That's how the controllers display, and they have highlighted points at the end of the fingers. And this indicates where we can interact with various items within the cockpit. Pressing a button or trigger allows you to interact with the highlighted item. All buttons, gauges, dials, etc. you can interact with, and there is tactile and haptic feedback through the controller once you're interacting with a particular item. One of the strengths of Flyinside, right from its early days, has been that all menus are accessible from inside the cockpit. The use of yokes, etc. are supported, or you can opt to use the hands or a combination of both. All items are configurable from the menus. Let's have a quick look at the aircraft available. There's only a small selection of aircraft available at this time because Flyinside is still in development, and it includes the Milviz B737, Baron 55, the TA-38 fighter and the Chinook 47P helicopter. It also includes TFDI's 717. Map data is supplied via OpenStreetMaps. And we're currently situated at JFK Airport. Weather is configurable. You can't use external weather at this time, although I believe there are plans to incorporate this at a future time. And in addition, the time of day can be chosen from the slider as indicated. I believe the Flyinside team are working on the night lighting to minimize the impact of frames per second during night flying. We're in the Milviz Baron 55, runway 4L at JFK. Let's take off. Flyinside Flight Simulator is in early access. It's available for around about £35 currently. That is somewhat expensive for a product that's in such early access, in my opinion, when you consider Xplane is around about £45 to £50. There is obviously still quite a lot of work to do to improve the textures. One thing that's noticeable is how super smooth it is, even though I have my settings at high. Flyinside Flight Simulator is built for VR from the ground up, and this does show. It is obviously a 64-bit engine and is able to take full advantage of multi-core CPUs. The scenery currently available covers the continental USA. There are once again plans to expand this into Europe at a later date. Multiplayer options are not currently available. Now trying out Milviz's 737 Model 200, the old analog Boeing. The textures look really good inside, the detail is excellent. New York below us. Textures look quite good actually. Flyinside have a free download demo, try before you buy, from their website. This is TFDI's 717, again super smooth, silky smooth. Flyinside have quite a long way to go to catch up with the other flight simulators, but initial impressions are positive. Well, if you've stuck with me this far, thank you very much. Which flight simulation package is best for you depends on what your needs and expectations are from that flight simulation package. Xplane and Prepared offer the most comprehensive coverage, with Xplane having a much better implementation of virtual reality. Prepared, on the other hand, has a more expansive library of add-ons. Aerofly, whilst not worldwide coverage, has fantastic visuals and is actively being developed. It's ideal and designed for VR. DCS is in a category all of its own, being very specifically a combat flight simulator, but its implementation of VR, in my opinion, it's probably the best of the lot. Flyinside Flight Simulator is in early access and difficult and perhaps unfair to judge and compare against the other flight simulators, but one to keep our eye on as it's inherently VR and able to take advantage of multi-core processing. This could be big news for the future. Microsoft Flight Simulator X requires the addition of Flyinside for FSX. This makes it overall an expensive package, and there's better value out there in the market today. Well, I hope you found that useful and informative and helps at least to some degree towards determining what is the best flight simulation platform to suit your needs. Coming up from the Simhanger in the third part of our current VR series will be a flight from Stockholm, Arlanda to the mining town of Kiruna, all in VR from startup to shutdown. In our fourth and final part in the current VR series, we'll be looking at leap motion, ability to use our hands instead of controllers in the cockpit. Thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Don't forget now to hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much, and bye for now.